Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Southern Cross Drive podcast, where we talk about everything to do with the Two Oceans half marathon. I've got your half marathon coach here, Devlin Eden, with me again today. Dev, how things going?
Yeah, well, thanks, Sean. Close now. We 2 weeks out from race day, so I've already had a couple of people getting a hold of me trying to get last minute tips. So yeah, looking forward to what we're discussing today. Some really, really cool information going into the taper, and yeah, crunch time.
Yep. Really looking forward. I mean, this is really it. I can't believe time has flown by so quickly, but yeah, really looking forward. So just wanted to say, because I thought we had matching hats, but I really quite like yours. Mine is a plain grey one, but I quite like the trucker one as well. Dev, that thing's pretty snazzy.
I go with a two-tone, just a bit of
Yeah,
contrast.
you are from Pretoria, so that definitely works nicely. Yeah, and so guys, we're going to be selling these at the expo next week. So come and grab a cool hat so you can look just be as cool as Dev is. And just a reminder as well is that we're also selling your pacing charts for your race, and we're going to, in today's episode, really go into how to use the pacing charts so that you get the best out of your race day. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about the taper and how to really ensure that you get to your race day ready and prepared and good to go. So Dev, yeah, let's dive straight into it. Where are we now? We're 2 weeks to go, you said. What are the things we should be focusing on?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing here is training's done. Like I can't sort of emphasize this anymore. We've seen a couple of people in the forum asking if they can run an ultra still, or if they can do another 21K race or whatever it is. Guys, your training is done. Hopefully, up until now, you have been training nice and consistently. You've been following us for the last 10 weeks now. So there's really nothing left to gain from a training point of view. You can't get fitter necessarily in these last 2 weeks, but you can ruin your race. Okay, so if you try and force anything in now, or try and cram training in because maybe you missed a long run somewhere else, you jeopardizing having a good race in 2 weeks' time. So that's the one thing I always tell my clients, we've closed the door on training now. Everything we do now for the next 2 weeks is thinking about race day, how we can prepare ourselves properly, how we can be as fresh as possible for race day. So it really is important that you aren't trying to cram anything into these next 2 weeks, please. We obviously in the next 2 weeks, and we'll talk about the taper specifically, but we are going to start cutting down on volume. So we're still training. By all means, I'm not saying we're not going to be training here, but we will be cutting down on volume, in particularly in those long runs. Just sort of, sorry, I've lost my complete train of thought now in my wording.
Midweek long runs and your longer weekends. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Shona. We're still training, as I said, the same amount of times. We'll still be doing the midweek work, so it's not as though, don't panic if you see in your plan that you've still got an hour's run or an hour's 20 run or whatever your particular plan might have had, especially as the midweek runs. So we're still keeping that in, but like I said, the long runs on the weekend is where we do start to cut down a little bit. And actually next week, we'll obviously talk specifics for race week, but that's where we really cut down even more. When it comes to the half marathon, I'm okay with people continuing with your strength training twice a week still. So if you've been doing 2 sessions, if you've been doing 3 sessions, cut down to 2 sessions. If you are relatively new and you only jumped on the strength bandwagon in the last couple of weeks, I would say maybe cut down to 1 session. So Monday be your last session. Don't do the Wednesday session or a Thursday session. But if you are a regular to strength, I'm happy for you to continue 2 strength sessions this week. We will remove strength training completely in race week, so making sure again there's no sort of stiffness in the body.
Yeah. Dev, let's dive into the taper a little bit more. I think people will start believing in things when they understand why we do it that way. So why do we do a taper? Like what is the importance of it?
Yeah, so I talked about sort of being as fresh as we can on race day. The idea here is we are trying to maximize your recovery in the last 2 weeks as possible. Now, if I can just kind of go into a little bit of the science behind it, and we refer to training and recovery cycles, and we talk about the supercompensation graph, if your model, if you'd like to refer to it that way. But if you imagine every time you do a training session, just remember a training session has a there's a systemic breakdown in the body. We're not actually gaining anything from a training session in the training session. Where we get our gains is when we are recovering. So if we do a training session now, I'm causing systemic breakdown. There's some microfiber or micro tears in the muscles. We got a bit of inflammation. The minute I stop that training session and I start to recover, that's where my body goes, again, I don't like what you've just put me through here. I'm getting a little bit stronger. I'm regenerating, rebuilding, and we start freshening up, getting a little bit stronger. We do the next training session. Obviously, we break down again, and that's kind of what we're trying to achieve by getting the recovery cycles and the recovery days right. When we start getting into our taper, the idea here is we really want to maximize that. So all the training you've done for the last 10 to 12 to 16 weeks, we're really trying to focus now in these last 2 weeks to regenerate, rebuild ourselves a little bit stronger, and really get as fresh as we possibly can when we do get to the line on race day. Now, very often people are like, oh, I absolutely hate a taper because I kind of feel like I'm sluggish. And people get a taper wrong. A lot of time I hear people, when I say training is done, I'm also not saying, right, go keep your feet up now for the next 2 weeks and don't do anything. A lot of people, when we start talking taper, people think, all right, cool, I can go play golf. I don't have to worry about doing anything now for the next 2 weeks. And as nice as that sounds, the body still needs the stimulus of training that it's been used to for the last however many weeks. So that's why we keep the frequency of training exactly the same. So if you've been running for 4 days a week, we'll continue running for 4 days a week, but we are going to cut down on your volume. The same applies with the intensity. So you've been doing interval work, we will still keep interval work in. And in most cases, we'll still do interval work in race week as well. But we're cutting down the amount of intervals, the type of intervals, and it's really there to sharpen up and just keep the body going, hey, I'm still ready to rock and roll if I need to. So that's the idea of the taper. Like I said, people don't often like a taper because there are times where you can feel a little bit sluggish because you've been doing so much volume. And it's really more a mental thing, because now you feel like, wow, I'm sitting around, I'm not doing anything. Am I losing fitness? I promise you now, you are not deconditioning. You are not losing fitness. You only start to lose fitness if you had to sit dead still and not do anything for a 3-week period. That's when you start detraining. Okay, and even start detraining, it's at a smaller rate. So if you keep the training going, you just keep, like I said, cutting down on the volume, I promise you're not losing anything. You're not losing fitness. You're not going backwards, but you are going to be as fresh as you possibly can when you do get to that start line for a really good performance on race day.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing, and especially if you've never really tapered before, Dev. I know different people experience taper in different ways. I tend to feel quite energetic and vibey, but I know a lot of my athletes feel quite sluggish, and so just to be careful to not go and do extra things. So if you're feeling sluggish, don't go out and do extra. Don't go and do some intervals and skipping and all sorts of things. Just stick to the frequency, like you say, of what you're doing, and I guess trust the process. But go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. And 100%. And when you say kind of don't go and do a little bit of extra work, this is also the time that if you are doubting anything, so if you've woken up and you feel that you might have a bit of a scratchy throat, or, oh, my hips are feeling a little bit tight, I'm actually not sure about this run right now, we've got a saying here, when in doubt, leave it out. Like I said, training's done. If you miss a 45-minute run this weekend, you are not going backwards. You're actually probably doing yourself more of a service, because now you're actually gaining an extra rest day. So when in doubt in these 2 weeks, leave it out. Let's not risk an injury or an illness or something like that. We don't have much time to play with now.
Exactly. And that brings me on to what I want to talk about next. So aside from training, these are what else are the things that we need to be focusing on? I mean, you mentioned staying healthy and not getting sick, but can you talk a little bit around what can we do to ensure that we get to race day in the best shape possible?
If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsay and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, so I think we mentioned it in last week's episode. Try and avoid large crowds if you can. I'm sure people are going to understand this is something you've been working towards. It's a big goal of yours. I'm sure they'll understand if you turn down a braai on Saturday night. Have a braai at home with your family. So keep it in-house. You want to try and just avoid large crowds unnecessarily. Again, not doing anything silly. So don't go and join an indoor hockey tournament this weekend or paddle or whatever it is. We don't want you risking any silly injuries. Wrap yourself in bubble wrap these last 2 weeks, please. We've been talking in the last couple of episodes about if you're feeling a niggle or you feeling a little bit sick, go see a doctor. Stop. Now's the time. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to play with now. So if you now get sick, you really can't afford to try and keep training and prolonging that recovery because you've got 2 weeks to race there. So it really is important that if you are feeling a little bit of a scratchy throat, see the doctor right now or as soon as you possibly can and stop training. And let's just make sure we shake any of that out. A big one that helps with that recovery, and again, the best way the body can recover is sleep. So improving your sleep as far as possible. I know that's an easy thing to say and not always easy to do, but you've, again, been working towards something now for so long, and this is where the priority's been. You need to really try and prioritize your sleep now for the next 2 weeks. Go to bed, even if it's half an hour earlier than what you were. Put your phone down an hour earlier than what you typically do in the evenings. Go to bed earlier, read something, just try and change what you've been doing. And now try play around and work on it. Next week becomes even more important to prioritize that sleep. So try and start, almost annoying people or being rude if you must and say, sorry guys, I need to go to bed early. Dev told me I need to go and sleep and prioritize my sleep for the next couple of weeks. I know I've got friends who'll tell me to get lost, but it's really important. And again, like I say, if it's something you've been working towards for this long, you put in all the hard work now. It's the last couple of steps, 2 weeks time, and then you can go out till 3 a.m. if you really feel like it after race day.
Celebratory jewels or bras afterwards. That's
Exactly.
rather save it for that. So yeah. Dev, a little bit on nutrition, hydration, things there that we can maybe look at.
Yeah, I think, again, still trying to, on the kind of note of staying healthy, is a good nutrition plan. So hopefully you've still been eating well, eating healthy, getting right balance. So that's really important that you still continue doing that this week. This week and next week, try not play around too much with new things and new strategies. Stick to what you've been doing. Make sure it's all works. If you are someone who consumes alcohol, I'm not saying have a problem with it, but if you are someone who regularly goes out and socializes and has a couple of glasses of wine with dinner every night, whatever it is, my suggestion for these next 2 weeks is start cutting down on that. If you can stop alcohol for the next 2 weeks, just remember that when you take in alcohol, so even if it is 1 unit of alcohol, and if any of you track heart rate variability on your device, you'll see 1 unit of alcohol has an effect on your heart rate variability.
Yeah.
So it's your body now having to clear and fight off toxins in the body rather than your liver focusing on regenerating muscle. So this is why it's important in these next 2 weeks to stop anything that your body now has to work even harder to try and recover. So I would try and recommend cut back on alcohol, make sure you're focusing on good nutrition. Hydration is absolutely critical. It's something we talk about around our training and our running, and very often people might get that right, but in our everyday lives, we tend to not take in enough fluid. And I see it from time to time, especially in race week. We carry on going with our daily lives. We don't take enough in. And when you actually get to the start line, you're starting the race on the back foot. Even if you've got your perfect hydration strategy for the race, you're already starting on the back foot because you haven't. So I would suggest maybe just taking in a bit more fluid this week. And yeah, it's really these are the controllables. That's really important. The things you can control now, try and get those in place, and anything outside of that, well, we kind of hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Right, Dev, let's get into the race plan. And because last week we went into quite a bit of detail, and the week before quite a bit of detail about the routes and how to tackle the race. But yeah, talking around your pacing charts and how we use these. But let me just mention, guys, if you haven't pre-ordered your pacing charts, scan the QR code that's on the screen now. That's going to help you. You can pre-order, not help you. It's going to allow you to take you there so you can pre-order your pacing chart. Then you can come and collect it. We'll be at the expo and you can chat to us there. We can talk you through the race again. You can come and say how's it and tell Dev what a nice cap he has and chat to us about it. So scan the QR code on the screen now. If you're listening to this in a different way, you can click on the link in the show notes as well. I'll pop this up again towards the end. But yeah, so Dev, just talk to us about how to use these pacing charts, because we say pacing charts, but we don't actually focus on pace, right? So it becomes a little bit confusing to everyone.
Yeah. So the idea of the pacing charts. So please don't take a screenshot of this, because this is just an absolutely random printed chart. Okay. So you'll see some comrades data in here. This is not a Two Oceans half marathon pacing chart, but I just want to give you an idea of what they look like. What you will see on the pacing chart is it will have a distance marker, and it will have a time. Now, to quickly talk you through how these work, we have factored in the route. So we spoke a couple of episodes about the route and where the elevation is and where all the climbing is. All of that is factored into this pacing chart. So again, you don't have to do any thinking and going, in that segment, I'm going to definitely be a bit slower. So how do I know how much to slow down because there's more climbing there? All of that is factored in. The half marathon pacing charts, we work on a 3 kilometer split. So every 3 kilometers will be listed in a little block on that pacing chart. And as Shona says, we don't give you a pace on this. Obviously, pace is time and distance. So pace is really factored in, but it's not something you can look at the pacing chart and look at your watch and going, yes, I'm running at exactly 6:03 per kilometer or minutes per kilometer. That's not how these work. The distance, the route markers on the road, we've spoken about before, how they will be accurate, not following the distance on your GPS device. Okay, you're welcome to have it over there, but really that's not your priority. It's the route marker on the road that says 3 kilometers, 6 kilometers, 9 kilometers, all the way through. Okay, so that's the distance marker, and then the time is the elapsed running time. So to give you an idea, if you get to the 3K mark and your pacing chart says, I'm going to give you a complete random example here, but if your pacing chart says at 3 kilometers, you should be there at 21 minutes and 35 seconds, you want to try and get to that route marker as close to that 21:35 as possible. Now, it's near impossible for everyone to be there within a second of the pacing chart. This is a guideline. As we've mentioned, the pacing charts are there to help you, keep you in check. So if you see that the pacing chart says 3 kilometers, 21:35, but you get there at 18 minutes, it's a good way to go, geez, I've gone out way too fast here. I need to slow myself and just pull the reins back a little bit, throw in 1 or 2 extra walk breaks if need be. Because at that stage of the race, it's still early enough for you to go, I've made a little mistake, I've gone out a little bit hard, and make that correction. If you're not looking at that, and you get to the halfway mark, for example, you get to 15 Ks and you're 3 or 4 minutes ahead of the pacing chart, by then you've caused all the damage, and it's now a case of let's hang on for dear life for the rest of it, and you potentially risking it. So you want to kind of hover you want to hover around a minute on either side of the pacing chart, and you're still going to be relatively safe. So what that means is if you get to the 3K mark and instead of the 21:35 that the pacing chart says, you're there at 21 minutes or 22 minutes, you know you're still there and thereabouts, and you're kind of on the right track. The same applies for if you get there and you are significantly slower, you know, okay, I need to maybe just pick it up. You might have got a toilet break in the first 3Ks or the first 6Ks. You may have had a bit of crowds that you were trying to work through. If you find yourself a little bit slower on those pacing charts, don't panic, especially early in the race. a lot of people see this and they go, oh, geez, I'm 2 minutes down on my pacing chart. And that might not necessarily be a case of you not being conditioned or ready for that pace, but something like I said, a toilet break or crowds or an unfortunate tie your shoelace or something like that. If you find yourself 2 minutes back on that pacing chart at 3 kilometers, you have still got, my maths, 18 kilometers to make up that time. So don't panic and think that you need to try and make up 2 minutes by the next 3K split, because then again, now you can imagine what that's done to your average pace and you're killing yourself to try and get there.
Yeah.
So you've got the rest of the route to chip away at that deficit. But really important, this is to make sure, like I said, you're not going too fast, you're not going too slow. It's there to really just keep you in check on the day. So I usually, if you are wearing a Garmin or Polo or whatever device, I usually try and advise people to have the only thing on their screen is elapsed time. Okay. So just have the stopwatch running. If you're someone who really wants to look at heart rate and any other metrics, have it on there. Heart rate in a race situation is not really valuable. And my advice around that is please don't try and measure your intensity that you're going out on based on heart rate. Remember, you're getting to race now. I know I'm going off tangent here slightly, but you get to race day. There's a little bit of anxiety on the start line. There's the weather plays a role, whatever it is. You've had an extra cup of coffee this morning, whatever it might be, and now your heart rate's already elevated. So now you're going to panic and you're going to go, oh, geez, I need to slow it down because my heart rate's in the red. It's a race. Don't worry about heart rate. Just have elapsed time. And then when you get to those route boards, whatever your pacing chart tells you, at 3 kilometers at this time, you want to be as close to that as possible. At 6 kilometers at that time, you want to be as close to that as possible. If we've set the right pacing chart for you based on your ability and a realistic goal, so that's also really important, not saying you want to run a sub 2 hour half marathon if you're actually a 2:45 half marathoner. So that's also important. But if it's the right pacing chart, a realistic goal for you, and you stick to that, I can assure you, you are running the race at that time and you are going to hit that goal time, the target for the day.
Absolutely. And I think I'll put this code up again, but just to reiterate, I think the reason why we go to time and not heart rate and not pace, guys, is because time is constant, right? So nothing is going to affect time, but GPS is going to be off on the day. Lots of people, buildings, lots of trees. So that's why we go into time. So just so you know that, and we always get this, Dev, right, where people are like, oh, well, my watch said I ran 23 kilometers. Meanwhile, it's supposed to be 21.1. And that's because GPS is off, right?
Yeah.
And so the race is not going to measure that route incorrectly. And that's why Dev is saying to you to not go on your watch and to go on the distance markers. Okay, so if you're keen to get a pacing chart, click on the QR code now so that you can pre-order that, or click on the link in the description, and you can pre-order those pacing charts and come and collect them from us at the expo. Dev?
Cool. Sorry, just one other thing, just on them. So not how to read them, but just basic functional use of them. It's a waterproof band, okay? And it's really easy. Is it just wraps on, trying to do this one-handed.
It's not so easy one-handed.
Yeah, it pretty much just wraps on your wrist. It's got a little sticky tab that you pull off. It sticks to itself, okay, on your wrist. And then it's really easy to just keep rolling it around on your wrist and reading all those splits off. Do yourself a favor and just maybe get someone to help you put it on, because we've seen it time and time at these races. People come and they buy a pacing chart and then they put it on, and very often they put it on upside down. And then it becomes one of these sort of efforts that you're trying to run through. But they are waterproof. So if you do pick it up at the expo, put it on at the expo so you know you're not losing it, you're not forgetting it on race day, because that's also a common mistake we see. They're waterproof. Shona was wearing hers for a while and showered with it and did everything with it. They're really good quality and they're tough. Trust me, it's a game changer when it comes to having a plan on race day.
Yeah, don't lose it. So Dev's right, put it on, and I promise you it'll still be on there. The print doesn't go off, so they're definitely quite hardy. So Dev, anything else that we can plan as we're coming up to race day that we need to be thinking about for the day?
Yeah, I think, look, by now, from a nutrition strategy point of view, you definitely should have that waxed. You should know exactly what you're eating, drinking, how much, when, how often. But again, I think I mentioned it in last week's episode or maybe the week before. just go and plan the route, whether it means driving the route before, whether it means looking at just the map. If you've got someone that is going to be seconding you or helping you out with nutrition on certain points on the route, just pre-plan that. Now's the time to just go through the route, whether it's driven, like I said, or looking at the map and go, okay, I want you at this point because I know that 45 minutes or an hour and a half into my run, this is where I'm going to be, and this is where I'm going to need most of my nutrition, or something that you can't carry necessarily. So if you're someone who needs another bottle of something or needs a sandwich, but you don't want to carry a sandwich with you, if you've got the luxury of having someone there to assist you, just pre-plan that. Again, it just takes things out that you need to think of on race day. The last thing you want is waking up in the morning, trying to get ready for your race and going, oh, geez, where am I meeting you again? Like, you don't want any of that stuff. And then it also, if you have got someone seconding you, it kind of puts the onus on them to go, all right, I know where I need to be, and I'll make sure I'm looking for you on race day. So when you're suffering, you just have to look for someone shouting your name nice and loud. But yeah, I think try and just pre-plan that stuff. Make sure you've got checklists and everything. We'll obviously go into race week specific in the next episode, where we'll talk about things like checklists and what you need to plan for the race and race day itself. But yeah, again, I think my takeaway maybe from this episode necessarily would be control the controllables. You've got a lot of things you can put in place now. The training's done, so now you can actually shift your focus into packing and making sure your pacing charts are right and your nutrition's right and everything. Shopping if you need to get stuff still. Now's the time to really start to focus on that, because the training's done now.
The training's done. Excellent. Yeah, I love that. Exciting times, Dev. So yeah, guys, make sure you come to the expo. Make sure you pre-order your pacing band. Make sure that you come and get a cool cap so you can be cool like Dev, and so that you're race ready. All right. And so really, guys, excited for this. We're really excited for our next episode. We're going to go into all things race week, what you should be doing. So stay tuned for that. And just a reminder, if you want to go back into any of the other episodes, go back and listen to those. Dev gives quite an in-depth view of the routes and what to look out for, so that you really are race ready come 2 weeks time. So yeah, Dev, thank you so much for your time, for your expertise. Always good to chat. And I'll see you again next week.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy the last 2 weeks.